Let's go on the record. Now, if you've opened up TikTok recently and something felt a little bit off, maybe it was the new terms, the new disclosures, creators openly questioning whether the app even has a future, well, you are not imagining things. TikTok wasn't banned, but here's what did happen. It got fundamentally restructured, and people are freaking out about it. And how do I know? Well, because allegedly, according to Sensor Tower and Apptopia, TikTok uninstalls in the US have spiked about 150 to 170% in just 5 days following the restructuring announcement. That is 150%. And at the same time, Google searches for how to delete TikTok, they hit an all-time high, which is higher than any ban scare, higher than any previous controversy. But almost nobody is talking about who actually controls the app now, where our data is going, and who is supposed to be keeping it safe. That is what we're going to be breaking down here today. Let's go. So the question is this: what has triggered this chaos? Now, allegedly, the US government passed a law that basically told ByteDance, which was TikTok's Chinese parent company, that you've got two options here. One is you sell off TikTok's US operations, or we're going to be pulling you from every app store in America. So ByteDance chose option one, and they agreed to spin off the US side of TikTok into this new US-based entity. It's basically being called TikTok's US joint venture. Now, the deal was finalized in December 2025, and it went into effect in early 2026. Now, as we know, TikTok is still here. You can still scroll, but it's operating under completely new ownership and a whole new governance structure that is supposed to address these national security concerns. So this wasn't a shutdown, this was a forced restructuring. But the same week that they announced the new ownership, TikTok also rolled out updated US privacy terms, and this is when the internet went crazy. So what did the people see in those new terms that made them panic delete? Well, the updated privacy policy included language about precise location data, sensitive personal information, and AI-driven personalization, as well as biometric identifiers. And then this is the one that went absolutely nuclear, and that was the immigration status of the people using the app. So that phrase appeared in TikTok's updated privacy disclosure under California's consumer privacy law requirements. And within hours, these screenshots were going hyper viral. People immediately jumped to saying things like, TikTok's tracking whether I'm documented and reporting me to the government. And under California's privacy law, companies are legally required to disclose any category of sensitive data that they could potentially be collecting, even if they are rarely or never actually going to use it. So TikTok listing immigration status doesn't necessarily mean that they're actively collecting or reporting it to anybody. It means California law says they have to tell you if that data type could theoretically be inferred or processed. But here's the problem. Nuances don't go viral, fear does. So what you saw online wasn't policy literacy, it was really a reaction culture at massive scale. So when you are seeing legal language that includes immigration status and biometric data in the same document, our brain doesn't think, oh, they are just following California disclosure law. Our brain thinks, obviously, well, I'm being watched, and that feeling, that gut level distrust, well, that is what drove the 150% uninstall spike that happened on TikTok. So let's get down to who actually owns TikTok now. Here's what's being publicly reported. ByteDance, they kept a minority stake, which is about 19.9%, and the other 80%, well, that's owned now by non-Chinese investors. The big names involved here are Oracle, they say it's a 45% stake along with other investors, Silver Lake, a private equity firm, and MGX, which is a UAE-backed investment fund, plus some of the other existing institutional investors. So TikTok US isn't owned by just one company or one person, it's a consortium of investors, and it's now under the US oversight. So here's the thing though. TikTok is not fully American, but it's also not controlled by ByteDance anymore. So let's talk about one of those investors, and that was Oracle. Now, Oracle has played a very central role here, and under the new agreement, all of our US TikTok users' data is now being stored in Oracle's cloud infrastructure. So Oracle's basically overseeing data security and making sure that everything is compliant and cohesive, and this whole setup is designed to allegedly prevent unauthorized foreign access to US user data from the app. Now, this isn't totally new, by the way. Oracle has been involved in TikTok's US data protection for a while now, and they called it Project Texas. The US government's been pretty clear that this structure is supposed to reduce national security risks. Now, whether it actually does, time will tell and we will see, but we need to pivot here for a second and talk about something that I think is really interesting, and that is the topic of billionaire Larry Ellison. Now, who is Larry Ellison and what does he have to do with this whole situation? Well, he is the co-founder, he is also the executive chairman of Oracle. He is one of the wealthiest people on this planet, and he's also a major shareholder in Oracle. Now, we are talking over 40% ownership of the company, and his net worth goes up and down with Oracle's stock price, but at various points he has been in the top 5 richest people globally. Now, in September 2025, he briefly became the world's richest person with a net worth of $393 billion. And he's also very politically active, and allegedly he's donated to Republican candidates. He's also publicly supported Donald Trump. In 2022, he invested $1 billion in Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, which is now X. Now, all of this is being documented. Now, here is what's not fact. The claim that Ellison personally controls TikTok's algorithm, or that he's been sitting there deciding what content gets moderated and what doesn't. Now, there is no public evidence to support that claim, but that is what is going wild over on Threads and X right now. Now, there is another layer to this though, and allegedly Larry Ellison's son, who's David Ellison, he just led this massive $8 billion acquisition of Paramount Global in 2025. So that basically means that CBS, Paramount Pictures, all under new ownership now. And look, this is part of a bigger pattern that we're seeing across media and tech, which is this word consolidation. There's fewer people controlling and more influence. Now, there is occasional speculation about other acquisitions the Ellisons may go after, but let's stick to what we actually know has happened and what has been confirmed. Now, here is the thing that is very interesting to me, but it also concerns me about this type of consolidation. They are not partisan. Now, journalists across the spectrum, academics, former news anchors, they've all raised questions about this. Former CBS anchor Dan Rather, he said that Americans have been concerned about the consolidation of huge billionaires getting control of nearly all of the major news outlets. And I like to jump in here with a quick pause to thank the sponsor of today's episode, that is Lumia Label. They are premium blue light glasses with magnetic interchangeable lenses in yellow, blue, and black. And look, we can't control a lot of the things in our future, but we can control what we wear and what we consume, and that is exactly why I designed Lumia Label. Now, you can shop online and use the code on the record for $20 off at www.lumialabel.com. We have limited drops. I know you guys are going to love it. Comment below. Let me know if you've tried them out. That is lumialabel.com, and you can use the code on the record for $20 off. All right, now let's get back on the record. Now, here's what we allegedly know. TikTok collects behavioral data, so does every other social platform. That data is now being stored and governed within US infrastructure. So oversight shifted from the ByteDance to the US-based framework. Now, here's another big question that people have. Who decides what content stays up and what gets taken down? Under this new structure, TikTok's US content moderation policies are managed here domestically. So why are so many creators freaking out and feeling so uneasy about all of this? Well, it's not really about one policy update or one line in a privacy document. It's because ownership structures have changed overnight, and nobody knows if this platform is going to be stable long term. And the truth is this, creators' entire revenue streams depend on platforms that they don't own. And that's what people are realizing, that it's fickle, that if the rules can change this quickly, if ownership can flip this quickly, what's stopping it from happening again? And that's the concern. It's totally reasonable. And it's not just about TikTok. If your income relies entirely on one single platform, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is, you're exposed to this risk. And this is not me trying to scare you. This is just the business reality. Now, let's go off the record for a second. There is a much deeper conversation happening here, and it goes way beyond politics, beyond tech, beyond even national security. This is about who controls the narrative. Now, from a biblical worldview, that question has eternal implications. Now, here is what the world is not going to tell you. The battle for your attention is a spiritual battle. We've talked about this verse before. It's in Ephesians 6:12. It says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And what does that mean? It's a spiritual war. So when we are talking about who owns TikTok, who controls the algorithm, who decides what content gets seen, what gets buried and pushed away, well, we are not just talking about tech companies anymore. We are talking about the gatekeepers of real truth. Now, think about it this way. If Satan can control what you see, he can control what you believe and keep you distracted. And if he can control what you believe, he can then control how you live. If he can control how you live, he can keep you from walking in the truth that can actually set us free. But look, what happens when the truth starts to get buried on news scales? What happens when there is so much misinformation, when algorithms decide what is acceptable and what's information? What happens when billionaires of this world with political agendas get to come in and decide what voices are heard and which voices are silenced? You get a generation that doesn't know what's true anymore, and the truth is that is exactly where we are right now. And here's the other thing that nobody's really talking about in all of this, and that is stewardship. And look, as believers, we are called to be stewards of what it is that God has given us, and that is our time, it's our talents, it's our influence, it's our platforms. So if you're a creator, or if you have influence, if you have voice, and by the way, that goes beyond just social media, that is in any sphere of your life, understand that that is something that God gave to you, and he is going to hold you accountable for how you've used it. So this is the crux of this issue. This is about ownership and why ownership matters from a biblical perspective. And it's not just because we are supposed to hoard wealth or build empires, but because we are supposed to be faithful with what God has entrusted us. And that really means building on foundations that can't be shaken. I remember when I was young, I heard this parable. It's from Matthew 7, and it basically talks about these two different people. There's one wise and there's one foolish builder. One guy builds his house on a rock, and the other one builds his house on sand. And then this huge storm comes, and only one house was left standing. And can you guess which one it was? Well, it was not the one on the sand. And the truth is this: TikTok is sand, Instagram is sand, YouTube is sand, and any other platform is sand. And our relationship with Jesus, this is really what the unshakable rock is. So look, here's my thoughts on this. And really, this is somewhat of a warning for people. Don't be deceived. The world is going to be telling us that these platforms are neutral tools. The truth is that they are just not. These are ideological battlegrounds, and the people who control them, they have agendas. And some of these agendas, they may align with biblical truth, but most of them won't. So if you are using TikTok, social media, Instagram, YouTube, that is great. But don't make that your foundation. And at the end of the day, there is good news. God doesn't need TikTok. He doesn't need Oracle. He doesn't need Mr. Larry Ellison or any other billionaire to accomplish his purposes on this earth. He can use a platform, but he doesn't need to, and neither do you. And if this episode opens your eyes, both off the record and on, then I need you to help me do 3 things. That is, number 1 is subscribe to the channel, join the family. We have new deep dives coming every single Thursday and Sunday. Follow the family. Join us on Instagram and X, and also I have a new Substack. We've just launched it where we go even deeper into the things that matter, and I'm going to be linking that below. So comment below. Let me know what you think about this. Are you going to be keeping TikTok? Are you deleting it? Where do you stand on this whole thing? I will see you guys in the next episode.